Hello friends, since everyone is so enthralled with my knitting, I wanted to let everyone know that I have finally started in on this blue blanket I was talking about. I am using this Bernat Bundle Brights yarn, specifically made for blankets. It, most importantly, is machine washable and dryable. That's high quality in my all my knitting projects, all two of them now. And it's a super bulky weight 6 yarn. You're supposed to use a US size 11 knitting needles. Of course, I'm not doing that because I decided to test out my largest round knitting loom thing. I think it has like 41 pegs on it, you know. I've done 33 rows so far. Very impressive, I know. When I measure this out, all 33 rows of my hard work, let's see, somewhere around 9 inches of progress. By my earlier measurements around the circle, I think that it's about 25 inches all the way around, so when I lay it down square, because if you'll notice, I do not have these two attached, so it's actually a flat panel. I'll tell you, it's really been something so far. I used my books. Let me go ahead and show you. I decided that I would do a twisted garter stitch, okay? So basically it is apparently, unlike twisted stockinette stitch where every row has twisted stitches, only the knit rows are twisted. Whatever that means. It took me at least 20 minutes to figure out how to use this round loom because, as I mentioned previously, in my flat board loom that I used for my scarf that I made, it went across, so I could like do stitches that way across pegs directly in front of each other. But since these are not doing that, obviously you have to do it on single pegs. So that took like some YouTube tutorials and such because, well, as you might imagine, sometimes this from yet another one of my books. This is from the Loom Knitting Primer. Not always super helpful, but I did figure out how to do the purl stitch. And I will show that to you now. Okay, so for the purl stitch, you're going to bring this piece, your working yarn, right? Okay, because I have my excess slack yarn here, or whatever the heck the books call it, right, off to the side. So take your working yarn and you're going to pull it in front of the peg, heading toward the other pegs that you're, the direction you're going to be going in. Pull it in front of and below, okay? In front of and below. Then you're going to take your little crochet hook or whatever, and you're going to go under from the top, the first piece, over the second piece, and pull that piece up to make a new loop, okay? Then what you're going to do is pop this old stitch off, even though that seems crazy, and put the new stitch on and pull the working yarn tight, right? Okay, so I'm just going to talk to you guys about knitting while I go around, and I'll show you what the other stitch looks like. So I really like working with this yarn, the Bernat blanket yarn, because it's super soft and it has multiple types of yarn in it, this particular one. So if you'll see, I have like a really soft furry kind down here, then sort of a thick, still soft kind here. This blue here is kind of more like a regular yarn. This is what I used for my scarf. it's like this kind that kind of looks like it's falling to pieces, but it's actually really cool. And then again, back to the soft. I think that's pretty cool. I like the idea of knitting a baby blanket, although I was a little disheartened because when my husband came in and was like, "Oh yeah, you're finally knitting a blue blanket," he was like, "That's so great, so you can sew the pieces together." And I was like, no, because if I was going to sew the pieces together, then first of all, I don't know how to do that, and every time I've tried, it's a complete disaster. And second of all, if I wanted to do that, I would have tried to use that Afghan knitting loom that I've showed you before, that has all the different pegs on it, because I think you can do like more than 100 pegs or something crazy on there. Anyways, you can make like a 40-inch wide blanket on that Afghan knitting loom. That is not what I was really ready to do. I did buy 5 of these Bundle Bright Bernat blanket yarns, and they're, let's see, how long are they? 207 yards, 189 meters long. So I did buy 5 with the original intention of that sort of being my one giant blanket, but as you know, and as I've described, I have no patience for knitting. So yeah, this is going to be a 25 by 25 inch blanket, hopefully, unless I get too tired and don't want to finish the rest of it, which hopefully won't happen. I will say that something I like about these stitches and going on the round loom is that I don't really get confused about where I am, so I can't have one of those devastating experiences like I had with my scarf, where all of a sudden I was stitching it on there and all my stitches were moved to the left, like one spot, and everything became uneven, and then I couldn't rescue my projects and I had to unravel the whole thing. Devastating. Would like to never re-experience that. This round knitting loom has a lot less of that, and I also chose this over the Afghan knitting loom because the pegs are kind of far apart, and this is bulky yarn, and I'm trying to sort of get this look where there are a couple, like, when you look closely, there are some holes, sort of, like, just naturally occurring in the blanket, because I think that looks kind of pretty, and I don't know, it just kind of looks handmade and nice, whatever. I'm particularly attached to the idea of making baby blankets because, and I'll tell you why, my great-grandmother knitted me a yellow blanket when I was a baby, and she hand knit it, and I still have it to this day. And I just think, you know, like, I don't know, as a kid, there's nothing more comfortable than that. You know, just knowing that you have this little piece of safety with you and that somebody special made it for you, that kind of thing. So it's nice. I don't think they even had these kinds of yarns back then because hers is just regular yarn, you know, but when I was a kid, you know, I got washed so many times. Oh no. Come to a knot in the yarn. Oh god, see what I have to deal with? Are you guys seeing this? Chaos. Pure and utter chaos. Like which side is it even trying to come through? Oh, I see now. Ugh. I'll tell you, if it's not always something when you're having a knitting project. Anyways, while I try to get this knot out, let me tell you, I'm making this for one of my preceptors. I've had 2 in my role transition program in nursing school, and so that's over the past few weeks, and I've been working a lot of hours, but they have 2, and they are so kind So I'm giving one a scarf, and one has a grandson who is 2. And so I'm going to give this blanket. Unless I come up with a better idea for her personally, but she talks about him a lot, as I think a lot of people with grandchildren do, and so that's what I want to get him. Or that's what I want to get her for her grandson. There we go. Okay, so I've gone all the way around. That makes 34 rows now because I've been doing the purl stitch, which is just what I showed you before, on the even rows, and this E-wrap stitch on the odd rows. So for the E-wrap stitch, okay, you're basically taking this working yarn again. Remember, keep your slack yarn, this one, off to the side. Take your working yarn, and you're basically sort of making a cursive E. So you want to pull it. Because I'm going in a counterclockwise direction around my loom, I'm going to go around each one like this. So just basically you go around each peg in a clockwise direction, but you're moving around the loom in a counterclockwise direction. So as you can see, there's a very good reason why I'm not making instructional knitting videos. First of all, I hardly know what I'm doing myself, so that would be bad. And second of all, I don't know how the heck these people make those videos. I guess they have like, what do you call them, like a GoPro cam on top of their noggin or something while they're making it, or I don't know how they get the camera to sit above their hands and show what they're doing. Half the time the videos aren't even that fantastic. I don't know. Other times, you know, they're really good. Although they always have that little intro where they have their name and stuff on there, and I'm like, can we just skip that part and get straight down to the nitty-gritty of it, because I'm not sitting around here. I already have to watch these YouTube ads. I don't want to watch any other ads, you know? So I'm just wrapping around each peg until I have 2 strings on every peg. Okay, so let me just go ahead and have a moment about this loom. So I thought this loom would be great, and so it initially is, because if you have like a pillow or something here, you can sort of lay it down on the pillow and work your project. But the thing is that I've noticed is, see, look how it's like ribbing up like that, like no matter how I lay it, like it's always bumping out or something, and I don't want all the strings to fall off, so I'm kind of super paranoid about that. Maybe I'm crazy. Probably a little bit crazy. Okay, so now that I've wrapped around all of these, all you're going to do is basically the same thing that, if you've watched any knitting videos, that you do all the time in knitting. In literally needle knitting, loom knitting. Concept is the same on the AliExpress. So you're going to pull under this stitch at the bottom and pop it over the top stitch that you just wrapped. Okay? So then you're going to pop all the way around and do that over and over again until you're blue in the face. Haha, blue blanket, blue in the face. I hope everything is going well with you guys. You know, I've really gotten into this knitting project, and you know, I feel like I'm going to have a little bit of spare time on my hands coming up in these coming months, and I know I've sort of mentioned my hobbies to you guys in the past, which, by the way, my fish tanks are going, hi Miss Fee, my fish tanks are going fantastic. I have my 75 gallon has an Oscar in it with a couple of Lake Tanganyika. Wow, I just got all the notifications, didn't I? Yes, my Oscar with my Lake Tanganyika African cichlids, there are 4 of those, and look at this thing that's popping up on my screen. And I have a pleco in there, and I have 2 Syndontis catfish in there, if you know anything about that. Then I have my 54-gallon tank, which has 2 red blood parrot cichlids. So I really debated on the ethics of that because that's actually not a native wild fish. It was genetically made as a really small mouth and a huge bulging head, if you Google it. They're pretty aggressive and they get fairly large. I actually have not witnessed any aggression, although it's just the 2 of them in the tank right now, because they always like swim away whenever I come up into the tank, like nearby. So I don't know what's going on with that. I guess what I've read online is that they'll eventually start swimming out or whatever. And then I have this 4-gallon fish tank that my friend gave me that's awesome, and that's still cycling though. So I haven't put anything in there yet. Also don't know what to put in there. To be determined. But I'll also be having some more spare time coming up on my hands, and I'm thinking about getting into the guitar again, which I did in high school. Shout out to Mr. Walsh. I did it for 2 years. Finally learned how to play House of the Rising Sun at the end of the 2 years. The only 2 things I really remember, I guess there were 3. Number 1, it really hurts your fingers on your fret hand and hurt your thumb on your strumming hand. I had to cut my fingernails, which obviously is not an issue anymore because I already do that for nursing. And I hated getting stuck with the melody part because the bass part, or just like, I don't know, what is that even called, the melody? What is the part where you have to pick the individual notes? Is that the bass? I feel like the bass was easier. I think there are 3 parts. There's 1 person who strums chords, 1 person on bass, and 1 person who does that other thing that I can't remember. Anyway, so I still don't know how to read music. Probably never will because I don't have patience for it. So yeah, I'll probably be that person who looks up guitar chords on the internet. Look at Miss Vivian, so weird. She's scratching her post we haven't even hung on the wall in the corner. She's being such a goober. I wonder if she'll let you see. Miss Fee! There she is. Do you see her head? Look at her being weird. She's like, don't spy on me. Anyway, so stay tuned for what happens with that. And there's my blue blanket knitting project. Post a picture if and / when I finish it. Feel free to ask if you have any questions or would like to know about anything that I'm using, as I buy literally everything on Amazon. See ya!